Hey everybody, welcome back to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com, and here on my YouTube channel, and this is going to be video number 1, I guess, of our series with the UC1 by Solid State Logic. We have a playlist in the description box below if you want to take a look at the other videos inside of this playlist. We're going to be doing the UC1 over the next couple of videos. We're going to be doing the UF8 as a separate unit, and then we're going to do them together as a pair. We did an unboxing video with those two, and I talked all about this series. You can check the link in the description box below to go watch this video. So here's video 1 for the UC1. So we're going to walk through the UC1. I'm going to show you how to download and register the product on the SSL website if you don't know how to do that, show you how to configure it with your DAW. We're using Studio One version 6, and walk through the basic controls, and then in subsequent videos we're actually going to get into mixing, the plugins, and all of that. So before we get started, if you like what you see in the video, please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell, and if this video helps you in any way and you want to support the channel, consider hitting the thanks button beneath this video. Also, if this is your first time here, we're talking about mixing over the next several weeks with all this Solid State Logic product. Go out to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com. Right on the homepage, I want to give you a free mixing course. It's worth $100. It's my gift to you just for visiting HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com. And if you stick around towards the end of the video, I'm going to give you something else for free. So here we are in Studio One, and more importantly, here is the Solid State Logic UC1. This is a plugin controller that's going to help us control our Solid State Logic plugins. But before we jump in and walk through this, for people that may be getting this for the first time, or you just ordered it and you're waiting for it to come in from your favorite online retailer like Sweetwater.com, and oh, by the way, if you want to check out the UC1 or the UF8 and you'd like to purchase it from Sweetwater, click the link in the description box below. That is my affiliate link, and you are helping support the channel. But you're waiting for your UC1 to come in. Let me tell you what you're going to do when you first get it home and you open up that box and you're super excited. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go out to the SSL Solid State Logic website. You're going to create an account if you don't already have one. And you're going to get to this page here, My Account, and we're going to take a look. You're going to click on Register Products, right? So you're going to click on the Register Products button, the date of purchase, the product here from the drop-down menu, the date of purchase, the country, and the product serial number. Your product serial number is on the underside of the UC1. You'll see the serial number. You're going to go ahead and put that in, and you're going to hit Submit. That's how you're going to do it. Once you've done that, you're going to get a confirmation, and you're going to go back to this main page here, and you're going to click on My Products. And when you click on My Products, you're going to have hardware and software. We're looking at hardware from the My Products page. You can also register new hardware if you'd like. We're going to click on hardware. We're going to view the hardware that's in my account, and what you should see down here, you'll see I have a UF8. You should see your UC1 with your serial number here, which mine is blocked out so nobody can see it. But why I'm bringing you to this page is the most important thing. 2 things you want to download. First thing you want to do is download the user guide, because you want to read the manual, right? We all got to read the manual. You can watch some product tutorial videos on this, or you could just stick around here and watch good old Uncle Dave, because I'm going to give you more in-depth stuff than Solid State Logic's going to give you. But you're also going to download the SSL 360 software. We're going to talk a little bit about that in this series, why you want to use the 360 software. So you want to download that as well, and then any additional software that might be available. So when you click on this, depending on when you buy your UC1 and what kind of special promotions that they're offering, there's a couple of things you're going to be able to download. When you click on additional software, you're going to be able to download the 3 plugins that come with the UC1 as part of the package at no additional cost. The Channel Strip 2, which is based on the 9000 series SSL console, the 4KB, which is based on the first original SSL console back in the early 70s, and the G series Bus Compressor. And we're going to take a look at all of those in a bit there. So you want to make sure that you download that. And again, depending on when you're watching this video and what SSL Logic is offering at the time that you register your hardware, you'll also possibly get, at least I did, you'll get a 6-month free subscription to their Everything package, which gives you access to all their plugins. The 3 plugins I just mentioned, plus all the SSL Fusion plugins, all their other native plugins. I think they call it Native Complete. You can get that 6 months for free, at least at the time as of the recording of this video. And then if you want to continue your subscription past the 6 months, it's about $15 US a month, and you have access to all the SSL plugins, past, present, and new ones coming out in the future. And they're coming out with a bunch of cool ones in 2023. So you may want to consider that. So make sure you download all of your stuff, okay? Once you get everything downloaded, Now we're back in here in Studio One. The first thing we want to do, pardon me, is we want to launch that 360 software because we want to set up the UC1 to work with our DAW. So how do we do that? Really simple. If you come over here on the UC1 down here, right beneath the gain button, you'll see a 360 button. You can press that, or you could just go to your applications menu and you can launch it from there. But let's go ahead and let's hit the 360. And that's going to pop this up. Now, don't pay attention to this part of the screen right now. We'll walk through this in this video or maybe in the next video. But let's go over here to the home button here. I want to come over here to the home button. That's usually what's going to happen the first time you launch it. And it's going to show your UC1 here. And if you have a UF8, it'll show that as well. But I've unplugged the UF8 just so we can focus on the UC1. First thing you want to do is you want to calibrate your meter, your G-Series bus meter here. So if you click on this, what's going to happen is you're going to open up this little calibration tool, and we're going to start with here. We're going to look at the 4 dB of compression, and then you're going to take a look at the meter on your actual hardware, and you're going to use the plus or minus buttons to calibrate it. So mine's been calibrated, but let's say it was a little off here, and let's say it looks something like this. Okay, we clicked on 4. We want to get it lined up right on 4 dB. So we're a little bit lower, so we're going to hit the plus button with our mouse until that's on 4 dB exactly. Then we're going to go to 8. We're going to check that. We're going to go to 12. We're going to check that, 16 and 20 to make sure that that's all calibrated. Once you've done that, you can close that. So make sure you calibrate your VU meter here on the UC1. So that's at the top left-hand corner, the overview and the update section. And if there's any firmware updates or anything like that, there'll be a message here for you to go ahead and do so. And more than likely, when you get your UC1, you're going to need to update the firmware. You're going to want to do all those things. Second thing is we're going to come over here to the little cog wheel. This is the control setup, DAW and transport. So we're going to click on this and we're going to take a look at our DAW configuration. So this allows you to have up to 3 DAWs that you can control. So if you use multiple DAWs, we're using Studio One, but if you drop this down, you can see all the different DAWs here. We've got Pro Tools Logic, Cubase, Ableton, Studio One, now Universal Audio Luna, and the Paramix, which is the 360 mixing software. We'll talk about that in a bit. So that's my DAW1 and DAW2. I have it on Paramix, and I'll show you why in a bit. This is really for more when we're using the UF8, and we'll talk about that in future videos. And then down here, your plug-in mixer transport. So now one thing that they've added to the 360 software, which is new for 2022, is the ability to have transport control right on the UC1. That was one of the complaints about the earlier versions that came out, is you still had to use the space bar or some other mechanism or some other controller to control stop and start in the DAW. Not anymore. So you can click on this and you can say DAW number 1, that's going to be our transport control. So I want to make sure that's done. So pick your DAW, make sure you have your transport control. The next thing here is the plug-in mixer. So if we click on this, you'll see the mixer and it's all populated, and I'll show you how to do that in a bit. Where now we have our transport controls here at the top of the screen. This is our 360 Paramix mixing software, which is really cool. We're going to do a whole video dedicated to this. So you can actually mix your whole project right in this window and never even have to look at your DAW, which is pretty cool. So we got our transport up here. You can take a look at this. We have all of our channel strips loaded in our session. And again, I'll show you how to do that in a bit. Okay, so here is all the tracks I have loaded up in the session here. And that is that. And if you come over here to the left-hand side where it says SSL UF8 Advanced DAW Controller, if you had a UF8, which we don't have one connected right now, you'd see some information there. We'll talk about that a little later in the video. So if we hit the 360 button again, it's going to make this kind of go away. It's going to shrink down. Now we're back here in Studio One. So now once we've got Studio One up and running, the first thing we want to do is we want to check out the 3 plugins that come with this particular controller. The 3 plugins that you're going to get for free when you download that additional software. Now, if you already have the, what do they call it? The everything, what do they call it? The SSL complete. If you already pay your $15 a month and you have that subscription, those plugins are already included in this anyway. I'm assuming that you didn't have that and this is your first experience with SSL. So if you're already paying for those plugins, that additional software you may not need to download. But if you weren't paying for the software already and you weren't using the native plugins, you want to download it from the website like I showed you. So the first thing we want to do is I want to talk about the 3 plugins that come with this. So as you see, I have on every single track in my session here, the SSL 4KB. If I double click this and open it, here is the 4KB. This is the brand new one released in October of 2022, and you put that across all of your tracks in your session as your first insert. That is what populates, let me open up the 360 software, the 360 software. If I were to close this by hitting the button here, and if I were to take off, let's say, the first 11 tracks, if I were to remove those from my DAW, you'll see those plugins have now gone away. And if I launch 360 again, you'll see that it starts with our bass track here because those tracks are gone now, right? You can see we have empty tracks here on the right-hand side. It didn't populate because I don't have them in the DAW. So what does that mean? In order for you to use the 360 software and see all the channel strips, you have to put the channel strip as the first insert on every track in your session. I should be able to undo that, right? There we go. And populate it again. And now if I populate it again and I hit the 360 software, you'll see now that the very first track over here is the kick track because all the drums are back. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to minimize this for a minute. So here is the SSL 4KB. That's the first channel strip. Now, the only other thing you want to make sure, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Hold on. Let me stay on track. The second plugin here is on the master bus. Here is our SSL G series bus compressor. Okay. Bus Compressor 2, okay, that's going to show up in our 360 software as well. And then the third plugin that you're going to get with this package, if we come over to Effects and I come over here to SSL, is Channel Strip 2, which is down here somewhere. Channel Strip 2. This is based on the 9000 series console. Let me just put this over here so you can see it. So here is Channel Strip 2, okay? So we have Channel Strip 2, and we have the 4KB. I don't know if we're going to get these all on the screen. And we have the Bus Compressor. These three plugins is what are the only three plugins as I sit here and record you for this video for you today that are controlled by the UC1. Only these three plugins. Okay, so you have 2 channel strips and a Bus Compressor. So those are the three plugins that you can control with this. I'm going to remove this for now. Okay, so once you've now put your channel strip up across all of your plugins and your bus compressor on your master bus, we can now open up, well, before we get to the 360 software, let me just walk you through the channel strip here. So I'm just going to open up one plugin here on the kick drum just so we can walk through this and you can see how this all kind of works. It's pretty straightforward. What's beautiful about this system is you have the hardware that controls the plugin, yes, but the way the hardware is laid out, it mirrors the plugin on the screen. So it's kind of easy to navigate. So if we look at the top here, we have our filter section. And if I take my low cut and high cut filters, you'll see on the plugin, it's very smooth. It's very responsive. There is no latency whatsoever. It is very accurate. On some plugin controllers that I've done in the past, and I won't mention the company names, you could go watch all the videos. I have playlists in the description box below. Sometimes there's a little lag and a little latency, and you feel like things are a little bit behind. Not with this. It feels beautiful. Here's our low and high cut filters. Here is our high frequency, mid frequency, high mids, low mids, and low frequency. Here's our EQ section here. So again, if I take this and turn it, you'll see all this stuff works perfectly. Now, the only downside, or not the downside, but one thing that's different, you'll notice that like on the high frequency, the knobs are red. On the plugin, on this particular plugin, the knobs are blue. And you say, well, why is that? Because when this UC1 was first created, when it first came out a couple of years ago by now, the only channel strip that was available was the Channel Strip 2, the second plugin that I showed you, which was based on the E-Series EQ, and they colored the knobs on the plugin the same as they did on the hardware. Now they've come out with the 4KB, and that particular console, the knobs on the actual console were actually blue. So they're different colors, but don't worry about that, but just realize that's why. It's because these are based on the E-Series EQ and this particular plugin is not. But anyway, so we have our high mids here. Again, everything looks good. It looks really, really good. We could take our EQ in and out by hitting this button here, and you'll see that it lights up, and it also lights up on the plugin. Now there's a button here above it that says E, and you'll see that button doesn't work on the UC1. And the reason for that is, again, because if the channel strip doesn't have some of the features that some of the other channel strips have, like for example, the 4KB is a little different than the channel strip 2. On channel strip 2, you had an E series and a G series EQ. This button will work. But on the 4KB, they modeled it true to the actual console. There wasn't two different types of EQ back then. So that means this button is just inactive. So if the button is not active on the hardware, on the UC1, it means because the plugin you're trying to control, that parameter isn't present. Does that make sense? Could be a little confusing, but you'll get it. So anyway, here's our low mids. Everything works down here, and here's our low frequencies down here. We have a bell. Now again, we can turn the bell, make the low frequencies a bell or a shelf. Same thing with the high frequencies, bell and shelf. Pretty straightforward. That's the left side of the UC1. On the right, towards the middle section of the UC1, we have our input meter here, right? We have our gain, our gain here. We have down here our channel selector. So again, if you see the plugin window on the screen, it's on the kick track. If you see the top left-hand corner, it says kick. And in the middle of the plugin here, top middle, you'll see it says kick. If I turn this, it follows right in Studio One, and I can scroll through all of my tracks. You'll see the console moving over, and you'll see that the plugin right there. Okay, so we got that right like this. So everything is select. Oh, that's not selecting. How come that's not following along? Oh, you know why that's not following along? Let me open up 360 and let me go back to this here. I think for now we want to say none. If we're not going to work with the 360 software, I think you need to do that. I believe. Let me close this. Now, does this work? No. Okay. So here's something interesting that I just noticed is that when I select the track, let me move this over. I have the plugin open. If I have the plugin window open and I use the UC1 to select the track, it doesn't follow, and it should. It should follow. We're going to have to investigate that and see why that is. You should not have to reopen the plugin window. That plugin window should advance to the next plugin. That should happen. But that's our track to a channel selector here. Okay. Next to, let me move this back over here. And then if we take a look at, yes, the center section of the plugin, right here, we have our input trim. We have our, well, we can take a look here. We have the phase invert down here, which is over here down in the bottom right-hand corner of the UC1. We have our phase invert here. We have a side chain here in the middle, right? We have our solo clear. If we had a solo, we can solo up the plugin. We can cut or mute the plugin. We have a fine adjustment here. We have our gain here, which controls our fader on the UC1. We'll control the fader on the plugin itself. If I hit the fine button, it's going to give me a little bit more fine resolution on the fader if you want to use that. Okay, that's that section here. We'll talk about the bus compressor here in a minute. We have our input and output meters here. In the bottom section of the UC1, what we do is we have, again, our track selector here. Okay, we have this little LCD screen that as we're changing tracks here, you'll see that the track number on the UC1 does advance with Studio One. Still not clear on why the plugin doesn't switch. Oh, it may be because I have it pinned. Is that why? That's why. See, I'm glad I figured it out. See, doing this live, just like you would be doing it at home. The reason why it didn't switch, see how the plugin now is advancing along with Studio One as I turn the track select, is because I had it pinned so I can have multiple plugin windows open at the same time. So if that happens to you, make sure you don't have that pinned. And now you'll see that the plugin advances and it changes. Okay? See, these are not scripted videos, guys. I do these live on the fly, just like you would be doing it when you get it home for the first time in your studio. Okay, so it does advance. You only have to open up the plugin window once. You don't have to keep opening and closing plugin windows, and you can mix right from here. Okay, let's go back to the kick. That's our track select. Over here in the section next to the LCD screen, we have this other little knob here. If we press that knob once, now it becomes our transport control. And you can see, hopefully on the LCD screen, we have a stop and a play button. The stop button becomes the back arrow, and the play button becomes the confirm button. Let me play this so you can see. So we have stop and play. That's a new feature in 2022. It was a heavily requested feature. We don't need to have another hardware controller, or we don't need to touch our keyboard or our mouse to stop and start our DAW. That's huge. The whole point of having something like this is to keep your hand off the mouse and keyboard as much as humanly possible. So that's a nice little feature, okay? If we hit the encoder here, again, it's black, and I don't know on the camera in this video if you're going to see it, but this encoder here, if I hit it again, it goes back to main or it goes to transport. So transport is only when you want it to be stop and start, right? Go back to main, and now these other buttons become something different. So if we hit, let's say, our preset button, you'll see here on track 1, our plugin is open. We're on the kick track and it's on the default preset. And you can see the preset at the bottom of the plugin here in the center. See where my cursor is? I'll click on it there. We can either open up presets by clicking on it here. We could choose our presets right from here, right? There's a lot of presets here for this plugin, or we could choose it right from the UC1 right here. We could scroll down and we can say bass. And I'll open this up so you can see it. It may do it right on the screen, right? No, it may not do it on the screen. We can go to bass. Let's say we're going to go to drums. And there's a bunch of presets in here that we can pick. So let's say LA Kick. And now you'll see that LA Kick is popped up at the bottom of the plugin window, okay? And it's also adjusted our EQ settings, right? It's given us all our EQs. It's given us some dynamics and some gating. All of that stuff is done. If we want to go back to the default, we can just scroll up with the little screen here. Or we can go back. Actually, we're in the drum presets. If we hit the back arrow, that's going to bring us back. We can go to default preset, and now everything zeroes itself back out again. So once again, what's really nice about this, and again, I don't remember if the presets were in the older version of the software update, the firmware update, but it's here now. What's great about this is you don't have to put your hand on the mouse and keyboard. I don't need to use the mouse to click on the plugin to choose a preset. I can do everything right from the UC1. That is super important. Again, keeping our hands on the hardware, that's going to give us more of that analog, real analog workflow. That's really great. So that's the presets. Next to that, we have our routing. And if you look at the plugin window on the screen here, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, we have our routing. This is our signal flow inside of the plugin. So right now it's set up to go from the EQ. The signal will flow from the EQ to the filter section to the dynamic section. But we can reverse that, right? We can have the audio coming into the plugin, and maybe we want to hit the filters first, right? So let's go back to the UC1 again and keep our eye on the plugin window. You'll see as I hit routing, we have a flashing light, and then we use this little encoder. And right now, if we go up to number 1, now it goes filter EQ dynamics. If I go to number 2, it goes EQ filter, right? It goes, number 1 goes filter EQ dynamics. Number 2 goes EQ filter dynamics. Routing number 3, dynamics EQ filter. See that? So we have 4. How many do we have? 9? 10? We have 10 different routing configurations that we can use just by choosing this. And then once we have one that we like, we just press the encoder in and there we go. Or we can hit confirm, I believe. Okay, so that's our presets, that's our routing. Okay, I'm not sure what the confirm button does. If we want to go back, that'll bring us back to our main menu here. And then we can hit this again, and now we're back on transport. Great, really easy, okay? Did I talk about everything except for this? Let's see here. Over here again, the focus mode here, this really is when we're in the 360 software. Again, we have our 360 software button. We hit that and our 360 software is going to load and populate. If we hit the magnifying glass on the right-hand side of the 360 software, you're going to see it's going to open up the Bus Compressor sidebar. So right now we only have one G-Series Bus Compressor on the master bus, but we can have up to several. You can have, I think, up to 5 or 6. So if we had a bunch of, or as many, 6 of them, or as many as you want maybe, if we had, let's say, a drum bus, a bass bus, a guitar bus, and a keyboard bus, let's say, in our session, we wanted to put one of those G-Series bus compressors on every one of those buses, all of those would populate along the right-hand side here in the 360 software. So that's what the magnifying button does. Let's close this for a minute so we can get back to our DAW. On the right side of the UC1, again, we have our compressor section up here. Again, we can look at our plugin. Now again, here's another one of those buttons that says fast attack. There is no fast attack setting on the 4KB channel strip, so that's an inactive button. Same thing with the peak. Those two buttons work on channel strip 2, the second channel strip, based on the 9000J. We do have a ratio that we can turn. These are fixed ratio points on this particular plugin. Our threshold, again, our release time, and we could take our dynamic section in and out just by doing that. We have our gain reduction meter right here. So if I were to solo up this track just to show you quickly, so if I want to solo up the track, what am I doing here? Solo. Sorry guys. And then we're going to hit this back. We'll hit play. So we just have a kick track, do a 4:1 ratio, and you'll see the gain reduction meter here. So it works here on the actual UC1, which is awesome, as well as in the plugin, which is really nice. It really is nice. It really gives you that, like you're really working on in a real console, which is great. Underneath that, we have our gating section here. Again, we could turn our gate expander. We could turn that off right here. Again, we have a fast attack button, which doesn't work on this particular plugin, but works on the other. Like I said, we have the range, the threshold, the release, and the hold. Okay, so all of that stuff is going to work just like it does here. So we have our release time. And again, we have a hold button, but hold on this particular plugin is not active. That's on the other channel strip. Okay, and that's our gate expander. And then again, down here, we could take the plugin, we can mute it. As you can see, we're muting it, turning it on and off right here if we want. We talked about the solo, the cutting, the mute, solo, and clear. We have a phase reverse that we can hit right here. Then we have a side chain button that we could do here. And then if we have a bunch of tracks and we want to solo clear, we can do that as well. Okay, that's the layout. Now, if we come to the center section here, and then we'll wrap up this video, this is for the G series bus compressor. So let me just open this up. Here it is on the master bus, and here is that. So again, we could take it in and out just by hitting this button here, and the meter on the UC1 lights up. We have our threshold, our makeup gain, right? Our attack, our release, again, our ratio. We have a side chain filter, and then we have a mix wet dry, which is kind of nice. That's not on the original hardware, by the way. That is in the plugin only, which is really, really cool. Awesome, right? Now we also have here some controls here that are not a part of the UC1, at least I don't see it anywhere, where we have our oversampling. If we want to use oversampling, that's a plugin only kind of a feature. We can open up the plugin mixer right from here. We can set the mix lock and all that stuff. We could even use presets if we want to use presets, just like we do from here on the UC1. That is the basic walkthrough of the UC1, how it kind of works with the particular channel strip, and all the buttons, the features, and how it all kind of works. And it is kind of quick. So once you get your stuff downloaded, you get your 360 software and you get your plugins installed, you can go ahead, you can get to this point, you could get yourself familiar with your UC1. We're going to come back in the next video, and in the next video, we're actually going to open up the 360 software, play a little bit with that, do a little bit of a quick mix. I'm going to show you, just working on some drums and bass, some acoustic guitar and piano, how quick you could kind of get a mix rolling very, very quick. You open up one plugin window, you just switch your tracks, and you just get to work, and you can see how fast it is and how much we could take our hands and keep our hands off the mouse and the keyboard. So I hope you found this video helpful with the UC1. Getting everything set up and going. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I want to give you something else for free. So first and foremost, go out to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Make sure you download your free mixing course. It's worth $100. It's my gift to you just for visiting homerecordingmadeeasy.com. And if you take that training course and you want to take some of my other training courses, my fully featured, full-length training courses, I'd like to give you a 25% discount on anything on my website. Just use the coupon code YouTube25. YouTube25 will take 25% off any one of the training courses on my website. And until the next UC1 video, my name's been Dave with homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Thank you so very much for watching me today, and I'll see you guys really soon.